Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. So glad you could join us on this morning after the schedule release. I'm Paul Dottino. He is Matt Sitek, the John Schmelk imposter. We'll be taking you through the next hour. We'll take your phone calls and get your reaction to the Giants schedule that came out last night. It's 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. And as always, if you don't catch the show live, catch it and our entire Giants podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. So, of course, we are joining you from the Giants podcast studio presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And there are a lot of people, Matt, who realize the difficulty of the Giants' schedule and probably have sick stomachs right about now that they saw the Giants will open the season with 2 road games in the division against Washington and Dallas. Clearly, that is one of the sore spots for me, and I know you and John had a chance to go through your thoughts on the huddle yesterday. I'm just going to say quickly, because I want to make this rapid-fire calls with you guys. I think it's more important for you to express yourselves than it is to listen to us. I want to get your guys' feelings on the schedule, positively and negatively. But I will just say right off the bat, I'm a big one for rivalry games and divisional games, particularly, not rivalry games as much as divisional games. Stack them up middle and later of the season. I'm very much against them at the beginning of the schedule because you just don't know what you have as a team yet. And if you lose, now you're playing catch up, not just with the record, but with the tiebreakers in your division.
I hear you, but considering the Giants, at least those first 2 games are most likely going to go in as underdogs, I think it plays to the Giants' advantage. I think the other 2 teams, the Commanders and Cowboys, have way more to lose and have higher expectations than the Giants, who can kind of go in those games and be like, no one's giving us a chance anyway.
Have you watched this team in September the last decade?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
This is a new team, though.
I hope so. I hope so.
Different.
I am always of the belief that if you wind up stacking, and again, you don't have a choice here, the league just gives it to you, but I love the fact that if you do get off to a scuffling start, you can always point towards, hey, back half of the schedule, bunch of NFC games, bunch of NFC East games. You don't have to scoreboard watch when you're playing teams in your division because you know if you're winning, they're losing, and you're picking up ground on them. It is always the safety net for a team that gets off to a scuffling start. And you have to assume, based on what's happened here in the last decade, I'm sorry, but you have to assume that it's not going to be a 4-0 record right out of the gate. It's just not that way here. It doesn't happen.
No, based on the first four opponents, I think it's unrealistic to expect a 4-0 start because those are 4 very good teams, 3 playoff teams, and then the Cowboys, who were very close, had a down year, but could easily be another playoff contender this year.
Look, it's just as easy or easier. This could be an 0-4 start. It could happen.
No, it could. But so the one thing is, we already knew the opponents. What came out last night, that was not a surprise as to who the Giants were playing. All the opponents have been set.
Not at all.
And we have all known that the Giants have the hardest strength of schedule based on last year's records.
Yes.
Based off of that knowledge, I don't know how people expected the schedule to be constructed where it wasn't going to be difficult. Like, you can't play.
Oh, no.
You can't have the hardest strength of schedule. Then when the order of the games comes out, all of a sudden it looks easy. Like, I think everyone should have expected a gauntlet of a schedule, given that information that we already knew.
There is no question. The most obvious thing in the world was that the Giants' schedule was going to be tough. But there are strategic and there are logistical challenges and strategies that do play into a schedule when you see what you get. I've been studying this for a long time, Matt, and I've been breaking this down with a variety of player, front office, and coaching staff mentalities. And I'm telling you, for the most part, unless something changed in this building in the last couple of weeks that I don't know about, starting off with 2 divisional opponents is never a good idea because you don't want to have to play catch up if you don't get out of the box quickly. You always have to know that if things are going to go poorly, there's at least a lifeline for you on the second part of the schedule that you can grasp to. And if you somehow find a rhythm, find a winning streak, find some type of momentum, that if you do that later on in the year, oh, guess what? I know we're 3 games behind so-and-so, but we still got to play them twice. And we still got to play the other teams in our division once or twice. Okay, if we just get things right, we can go on a run and maybe pull something out of the fire at the end of the season. That's the mentality that football teams use.
I'm just going to have to disagree with you on that one.
I
think if you were a team like the Commanders coming off a surprise run to the NFC Championship with a young second-year star quarterback, then I fully understand not wanting to open up the season with 2 divisional games. But no one is expecting the Giants to do anything this year. Everyone in the media, a lot of fans, like everyone has such low expectations. It's sort of like no one's giving us a shot. So what's the worst that can happen? We lose like everyone expects us to do? No, let's go out and surprise people.
That is exactly the wrong mentality to have. But it's okay.
Why? How is that wrong?
I just explained it to you.
No, you not. All right. You didn't explain how what I said was wrong. The Giants are going to go into that Week 1 game as pretty heavy road underdogs against the Commanders coming off a run to the NFC Championship. Except the Giants get to go face a second-year quarterback who only has 1 year of experience under his belt with so much new talent on the defense and new players. Shane Bowen can go out there and throw out new disguises, new schemes that Jaden Daniels has not seen before, confuse the young quarterback. I personally think that it is a better thing for the Giants to open up against those 2 teams than, say, the Week 3 and 4 opponents.
You are so far too deep into the forest to see the trees on that perspective.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. The
Giants that's all right. 201-939-4513.
Didn't the Knicks kind of have that mentality?
Yeah, the Celtics won last night, Pearson, which is why you're here this morning, right?
Well, I'm not bringing it up for that. I'm just saying the Knicks had that mentality and they won games.
Well, I don't know how that applies to this, but that's okay. We'll go to Gil first up on the show on Big Blue Kickoff Live. You're first up. Hi. Hello.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you?
What's up, Gil?
Hey, what's up, boys? I just wanted to talk on the schedule a little bit. I want to start off by saying I absolutely love the video you guys came out with. As a 30-year-old man married to a reality TV obsessed wife, I think it is absolutely hilarious, the video you guys made. Real quick,
Thank you for that.
I had I got a like and a dislike that I like about the schedule here. I want to get in, and then I got a question for your buddy Pearson off camera. One thing I like about the schedule is a lot of people might disagree. I like seeing the Niners mid-season. They do sometimes have a lot of injuries come along mid-season, mid to late season. So I think that's a better matchup than some people might think. One thing I dislike about the schedule, might be a little selfish, is I plan on going to the Patriots game, and nobody wants to be in Foxborough in December. So
especially at night.
One thing. Oh yeah, it's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal.
Yeah.
And my question for you, Pearson, is how come they didn't get you in the video, man? I feel like that New England Patriots character would have worked perfect for you. You know.
Wow.
Say hi to your mother for me. I feel like you could have killed that one, Pearson.
I think I could have too. Actually, that's a good call, Gil. I should have asked about that.
Gil, thanks for the call.
How dare they keep you out? No problem, guys.
Appreciate it. Call again.
Thanks, Gil. There was a lot of hard work put into that video. I'm glad some people enjoyed it. I know there are others on social media who I guess did not appreciate it or did not fully understand it. But as someone who also, has a wife and has watched some reality TV, I thought it was hilarious. I was a fan. Still am a fan.
All right. Abdul in Minneapolis, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, guys. What's up?
How you doing?
My only issue with the schedule, having 2 divisional players, teams right up front there, is the first 2 weeks are kind of an extension of the preseason.
Bingo. You get it.
Of the lack of practice time and all that kind of stuff. So the teams are not there yet. So it could be good or bad, So maybe we're catching these guys, the Cowboys and the Commanders, at the right time, and a lot of them have new players like on the roster and stuff. So it could be the right time to catch them. But I just don't think any teams are at the full strength. It's kind of unfair to put a divisional game right there because they're so much more important than regular games.
I could agree with you, Abdul. Everyone says that it takes the first 4 games of the season to really find out what you have to like get things clicking, firing on all cylinders. But again, the Giants are going to go into those first 2 games as pretty big road underdogs against their divisional opponents. So that is why it's like
that's the point, though. They already have to overcome being an underdog, and now if there is any type of discombobulation at the beginning of the season, it's a double whammy.
But you can say that about the other teams too.
No,
a young quarterback
going
into his
second season. Washington Commanders.
Yes, a young quarterback going into his second season, or a Cowboys team, a Cowboys team that has a brand new head coach. What are you're talking about? Not fully understanding how the offense or defenses of these respective teams might be gelling. You have a new head coach for the Cowboys.
Abdul, go ahead.
Are we just skipping that?
It could be said both ways, as you guys are clearly showing. But another thing,
it's good that we have a different opinion because at least it gives you guys some colorful stuff to deal with on the program.
Exactly.
He was agreeing with me too much yesterday. Go ahead.
Another thing is this narrative, I think a false narrative about the front office and the coach being on the hot seat and, and the schedule, setting them up for failure. First of all, in no universe do I see Schoen and Daboll being on the hot seat. There's no way that the Giants are going to, after they said, after they admitted how much they messed up with Daniel Jones, thinking of firing these guys, this year, I just don't see any universe where that's happening, and if the Giants do fire them, if they don't do well this year, they are just repeating the same mistakes, and they're an incompetent team, and I don't think they're incompetent. So I don't see it in any way that Schoen and Daboll will be fired this year. I just don't see it. And if people are saying this schedule is setting them up for failure. I'm not sure about that. I think this team, I think people are not giving this team enough credit. I think the quarterback room has seen such an upgrade. The defense has seen such an upgrade. Mm-hmm. The offense has seen such an upgrade.
Special teams.
The team has been upgraded. And there's a lot yesterday. Russell Wilson was on an ESPN show about the schedule, and he just fired me up. You should go back and go check out that interview. He just said the right things. And at the end of it, I was like,
he's a pro. He's been around a long time. He knows what to do. He knows what's going on.
So, as I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about the improvement about this team. So, the schedule is a schedule. We knew it's going to be hard.
Yes.
People are freaking out. Like, how does one of the worst teams get the hardest schedule? We played the NFC East. We played, 3 of the best
AFC
teams
West.
Exactly. It's the way the dice rolled, and that's all you can do about it. And I think it's a great barometer to show where we are. I think we should be excited about that. So let's go Giants.
All right. Very good.
Thanks for the call, Abdul.
Thanks, Abdul. That's really the point that we totally agree on, is that we all knew the mountain that this team's going to have to climb this year, regardless of where the teams lie. I mean, when I went through my usual diagnostic analysis, I had 6 things that were somewhat positive about the schedule, and then 3 things that were very, very, very negative. But in referring to the beginning of the schedule, the positive I have, and you may see some of this, is that the Giants have 2 non-playoff teams from last season in their first 5 games. And as you know, I was very vocal about, hey, I hope they get 2 of the lesser teams in the first 4 or 5 weeks. Well, they did get the Saints, right? Yep. We agree they're a lesser team.
For sure.
And they are in the first 5 weeks. And depending upon how you gauge Dallas, and it's hard to give them the moniker of being softer because they've owned this team for so many years. It's been a one-sided rivalry. So it's hard to look at them that way. But they were a non-playoff team. I just can't get that thorn out of my side that always says Dallas has been ruling this series now for, it seems like, forever.
Yeah, I think it's also just important to keep in mind for Dallas last year, Dak Prescott played, 8 games? DeMarcus Lawrence got hurt in that matchup against the Giants in week 4 and then missed the rest of the season. Micah Parsons also got hurt that game.
They'll be better.
Missed 2 months. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence is no longer there, but Dak is healthy. Micah's there and healthy. Like, I expect the Cowboys team to be better than they were last year. Now, are they going to be a true contender? Who knows? But I do think they will be improved from what we saw last season. But there's no doubt about that the Saints game, that's another story in week 5. They have a big question mark at the quarterback position now that Derek Carr is retired. But the first 4 weeks, no doubt about it, is a gauntlet of a start to the season. But one way that I'm kind of looking at it is it's going to be a phenomenal test for the Giants, and especially for the Giants defense. This, kind of revamped defense that the Giants put so many assets towards between free agency and the draft. Well, you have 4 games to start the season against the Commanders, coming off a run to the NFC Championship, the Cowboys, who we just talked about, expect them to be better, especially with George Pickens now as the number 2 receiver, and then the Chiefs and Chargers, who are hard-nosed, physical teams, who are obviously very, very talented on both sides of the ball.
They're for real.
If the Giants can get through that first month of the season and, look pretty good, I'm not saying they have to win every game or three of the games. Even if you go like 1-3, but you're in the close games in that 1-3 start, that's going to give you some confidence going into that week 5 matchup and beyond. So I do think it's just going to be a very good test to see. I know it's the beginning of the season and it takes some time to get going. I fully understand that and acknowledge that, but I do think it will be just a good test to see what this team is made out of.
There are those who like tests, and there are those who would like things to be a little bit easier. I'm more for tests a little bit later in the schedule, but that's okay.
Here's the what point. It is.
But it is. You're
I
right.
prefer an easier start too, but
we can't
the schedule
change it.
is.
Yeah, we can't change it. Now, what I will say is, and if you break up the schedule into quadrants like a lot of coaches enjoy doing, and I understand that, it's hard to break it into 4s and 4s and 4s when you have 17 games. But let's just, for argument's sake, say breaking it up into quadrants. With the 2 division games, then the Chiefs, Chargers, and then the Saints, now you've got that little bit of a line because it's 5 games, and then you have the Thursday night game against the Eagles. So there's a natural division line there. To me, I always talk about where do you want the water level to be? Minimum water level. I always look at that. Like a lot of coaches will say to you, look, just get me, and I've always said this for years too, because coaches have told it. No worse than 2-2 after the first 4 games. That's what you want, right? Because it was always by 4s. In this case, we're going to go by 5. I would say my goal would be, bare minimum, get me to 2-3 after 5 games.
Agreed.
Get me to 2-3 going into Thursday night's home game against Philadelphia. And then it's like, all right, let's see what the team can do. Let's see they got their sea legs under them, try to do some business. But 2-3, I don't think the team's taking on water at 2-3. I think 2-3 is very acceptable.
No, I agree completely. I mean, that's why I said that first 4 weeks, even if you just go 1-3 in the first 4 games, and then you face that Saints team, which obviously there's no such thing as a guaranteed victory, of course. But the Giants will definitely have a decent chance, assuming the team is healthy at that point. They will have a decent chance in that game. They're not going to be huge road underdogs in New Orleans, you would think. So. Right. You win that game after winning 1 of the first 4. You're 2-3, and I'm not saying 2-3 is good and that you should aim for that. You're not saying that either. No, obviously, that is the minimum of what we would like.
Right.
But if you're 2-3 and you that Chiefs game you end up losing, but it is a close loss, and/or the Chargers, one of those if all those losses are close losses, you're gonna head into that Eagles game in Week 6 feeling good about this.
That's
team.
A different question though, and I'm fine with that. That's not the point that I was going for. I'm actually okay with what you just said. That's fine. You want to be playing well no matter where you are in the schedule. But if you're going to be 2-3 going into the Eagles game, you're going to probably look at the Saints as being one of the wins. And quite frankly, you're going to agree with me. You're going to think you want one of those other wins to be against the Commanders or the Cowboys.
You'd certainly prefer it to be one of the divisional games.
Yes, you would, because it's in the division. You don't want to be 0-2 in the division to start the season. That's terrible.
I mean, you don't want to be 0-2 to start a season, period, against anyone.
Yeah, but especially in the division.
Of course.
All right,
but the same goes for those other teams, the Commanders and Cowboys. Same goes for them. And they're going to have higher expectations. I
don't know if the Cowboys and the Commanders play within the division for both of their first 2 games. Do you know?
I want to say we are the only ones that get that great honor
and
of 2 back-to-back NFC
That's what I'm
games.
talking about. You always, look,
Washington has Green Bay in week 2.
I go back.
But on Thursday Night Football, so they have a quick turnaround.
And you'll understand this because it's a legendary motto around this building. Right? Wellington Mara always said, right? You always expect the worst and hope for the best.
The Cowboys, actually. They start with the Eagles.
They do.
The season opener, and then they face us week 2.
Wonderful.
They get a 10-day break between the 2 games.
How about we stick them with 2 division losses after the first 2 weeks of the season?
That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Again, always expect the worst and hope for the best. That's what Wellington Mara always said. So if you're going to start out with that mantra, you got to acknowledge the possibility of 0-2 out of the gate, and in the division, that would be bad. Is it Demir in Charlotte? You're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing, man?
Okay.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So just listening to what you guys are talking about with the schedule, I kind of have a different take on it. I think we're going to start off 3-1. And the reason why I think this
Sign me up.
Well, considering how, games went for us last year, we lost a lot of one-score games. And I think that was our biggest problem. A lot of that had to do with the offense. Our defense was hanging in there sometimes, but ultimately our offense just couldn't score points. That was the biggest thing. I know a lot of people aren't as high on Russ as others are. I get it. He's a little bit older. He didn't have the greatest time in Pittsburgh, but I still think Russ has enough to where we won't be averaging 14 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that when healthy, we have a good offensive line unit. Even that first game against the Cowboys last season, I don't think Daniel Jones got sacked that game. If I could be wrong. I think he got pressured a few times. But ultimately, the offensive line was playing much better than anyone had expected.
Right.
Given, our recent woes at that, unit. I think this team comes out with a lot more fire and passion. I just do. I think with the pickups in, free agency with Javon Holland and, Abdebo, if I'm saying that right,
yeah,
I think those guys could be very big difference makers for us. That's a complete rehaul in my eyes of the secondary that was kind of raising some concerns over the last few years, especially underneath Joe Shane. A lot of people were kind of getting, a little iffy, especially after, Xavier McKinney left. But I think that's a complete rehaul. I think Deontay Banks would benefit from, playing against wide receiver twos. I don't think he's a bad DB at all. I just think he would flourish there. Not to mention our pass rush, even more solidified now. I think the Giants have a way better chance now, more than ever, of competing and fighting. I mean, it wasn't that long ago in, that 2021, 2022 season where we just came out of the gates on fire, and I can see them doing that again. I really can.
Well, Demir, Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, we all know and respect him. He just did a video yesterday and said he believes the Giants are a much better team than people are giving them credit for. He cited their defense in particular, also said he believes the offense has been upgraded, and said flat out it's very reasonable to expect they could win 7 or 8 games this year. And there's a member of the national media who, for the most part, the national media is down on this club. But Albert came right out and said he thought 7 or 8 wins was reasonable. Well, if that's reasonable, a couple of bounces, in the right direction, and maybe you get even more than that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, going into the 2022 season, I feel like expectations were similar to what they are this year going into the season. No one expected the Giants to do anything. I think everyone was saying, there's no way the Giants get above 5, maybe 6 wins. What'd they do? They won 9 games, made the playoffs, won another game. They surprised people. They won games that no one gave them any chance of winning.
Can he get that start again?
I mean, that was
this
year. That would be fantastic.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I just think Russ adds an element to this offense that we've been desperately missing. I think, with a veteran guy like that, someone like, I don't care what anybody says, the way Russ was playing in Pittsburgh here last year, I don't think we just win 3 games with that. And that's a very large bar, I admit. But at the same time, like we were desperately needing better quarterback play. And I think with the rehaul of the quarterback room, I think Joe Shane did a phenomenal job. I know he gets a lot of flack for, the whole Saquon thing and McKinney, but ultimately when you take a step back and look what he's actually done to the roster and the team, we are, for the first time, I feel as though this is like one of the most talent-heavy teams that we've had in a very long time. And I just can't see them going out and just rolling over and just laying down and getting steamrolled. Even when you look at, like, the Commanders, last year, we were in very close games with them. Didn't even have a kicker, and that was one of the reasons why we lost to them.
Yeah,
the first time. So
you got to remind me. I know. I'm with you, Demir. I understand. There's a lot of reasons to believe this team will be better. There's no doubt about that.
And on top of just having...
Thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And on top of just having, I think what we all agree is it's just a much improved roster from last year. And I've spoken about this previously, but I feel like the type of players that were brought in, like the character of the players that were brought in, are bringing a new element to the team that we started to see with the draft class that was brought in last year, but it was really, multiplied by the draft class this year and some of the free agents that were brought in, where the Giants have players on this team now that are not just going to sit around and let other teams beat them up. They have guys that are going to, figuratively speaking, punch back when the Giants get punched. They're not just going to sit there and take hits and get, blown out week after week. These are guys that are going to go out there and fight until the very last play, be very physical. And not that was, completely missing last year, but it was clear. And, Joe and Dave's both spoke about this around the draft in their press conferences. They were looking for specific types of player, and they brought those types of guys in, guys with, a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of an edge, that are going to punch back when the Giants get, again, figuratively speaking, punched.
Yeah. In short, you'll hear this phrase often talked about by coaches. I don't want guys who want to win. I want guys who hate to lose.
Yeah. And they certainly brought in guys like that. From top to bottom of this year's draft class, they're like that.
We saw a bunch of those guys who were angry as heck after every loss during the second half of last season as things collapsed. And now you add this new group of guys who seems to feel that way too. You can understand now that attitude is spreading throughout the locker room. And the more guys you have who are that way, well, you'd like to think the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, we go to John from Staten Island. You're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? Just want to say you guys follow you all year. You guys do a fantastic job.
We try. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can't believe I'm calling up to try and convince Paul to be a little more positive about the opening of the season.
So you think they're going to win the first two games?
But no one said.
I hope so.
Definitely, you got to win one of them. Listen.
I'm with you.
Joe Shane's given them a great roster to work with. This is on the coaches now. If we have this great pass rush and we got to figure out how to get certain guys, how many guys we can get on the field to rush the passer effectively and all that. Now it's Shane Bowen. What can you do? Let's
just remember, John. I go back to Wellington Mara again. Expect the worst, hope for the best. You have to prepare for the low bar.
We've seen the worst the last how many years off the season. So
we have.
Go out there, beat Washington. I say you split. If you could split the road games and the first two home games. We're 2-2, and we're in all the games. That's the biggest thing. If we could see that we're fighting till the end, we're not like just getting blown out. Well, now you come out 2-2, and now things start to snowball, and you see it every year. We're not playing the 24 Giants versus the 24 Redskins. It's a whole new year. Every year we think these teams are going to be fantastic, and every year the NFL changes because of probably there's a lot of mediocrity that goes around, and the margins are slim on winning and losing.
John, if you're going to go in looking for 2-2, you better go in looking for 3-2, because if you're 2-2 and then lose to the Saints, you're not going to be very happy.
But that's what I'm saying. So, but if you get the 2-2 and you're fighting those games and you're looking solid, you should win that game. You should win that game against the Saints, right? I mean,
that's what I mean. So come out of the box saying you're looking for 3-2. Don't be shy about it. Say it. And just say it. I want 3-2.
Well, I want 3-2.
There you go.
I want 3-2. And I think we're going to get it. You know what? Because Shane has put together this team. I'm telling you, it's on these coaches now to get these guys ready, because he's got the team that can compete defensively We have a competent quarterback. We don't need him to put up 40 points a game, but don't turn the ball over. Let's get 20-something points a game. Let's see what happens. And just to go back to how we don't know how these teams – look at last year, opening weekend. Patriots on the road in Bengals. They won the game.
Right.
And so, like Matt was saying, the beginning of the season lends itself to, have your team prepared, have them going ready to go 100%, and I think we come out with some wins early on.
Be great.
But all right, well, we'll see. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
the call.
Thanks, John.
201-939-4513. Couple quick notes. Pearson, what's up on the huddle these days?
Well, we got the schedule reaction huddle with Matt and John that went up last night. And I believe the last one was Dan Orlovsky on Monday. A really good interview if you want to check that out.
Of course, Dan, quarterback himself with the Lions in the NFL and now commentator for ESPN. Giants season ticket memberships are available for the 2025 season. Catch all the action at MetLife Stadium. With a membership, you also stay connected to your team all season long and off-season long as well. You get exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets today. Also, we probably haven't promoted this much in a while because we talked about the draft for about a month or 2 months straight. Giants TV is the official connected TV streaming app. It is free. It has all original video content. Matt and company have been busy pushing all the buttons and pumping up stuff left and right over the last 48 hours. There's a ton of stuff. Is there something else you want to highlight besides the schedule release video that's up there now?
Between Dan Salamone and I, we just produced a lot of different various content between games to circle. I put together an article of just one big thing to know about each of the opponents because as we've talked about, as callers have mentioned, things change from year to year, and a lot of the rosters of the teams that the Giants are facing this year went through some somewhat dramatic changes, whether it's players, coaching staff. So I put an article together highlighting the biggest changes from each of the teams. I thought it was pretty interesting. We have some photo galleries and stuff. A lot of content. Check out Giants.com.
There are wallpapers, too.
There are really cool looking wallpapers that our graphic designer spent a lot of time on. I think
they've got the schedule on them and stuff.
With the full schedule with about 8 different players. So you have your choice of who you want to put on your wallpaper with the schedule. A lot of good stuff on Giants.com.
So if you get some free time, check it out and pick out what you choose and see what you like and download. And it's all there, and it's free on Giants.com. That's the other thing. It's not a subscription service. It's all free.
It's all
you can
free.
just enjoy it. Just like this show. It's free. 201-939-4513.
Before we go back to those, there was just one thing that I noticed, which I should have noticed about the schedule once we knew the opponents, but it took until yesterday for me to realize, or this week for me to realize this. Just a fun little tidbit about the Giants schedule. The Giants will face 5 of the 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round of last year's draft this year. The only one they will not face is Michael Penix. So they're going to face, obviously, Jaden Daniels twice, Drake May on that Monday night game. They face Caleb Williams in Chicago, Bo Nix in Denver, and J.J. McCarthy, who should be back healthy this year.
Yeah.
Who obviously did not play a single game last year. So just a fun little tidbit. There are 5 of the 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round last year.
I saw this note about quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is expected to be the Giants' opening day starter, as we all know. He will be one of 11 teams, or he will be on one of 11 teams likely to have a different Week 1 starting quarterback as compared to 2024.
It's a lot of turnover.
It's a third of the league.
It's crazy.
Wow. Unbelievable. All right. We go back to the phone lines, and let's see who we've got up next. It looks like it's going to be Tim in Sacramento. You're next on BBKL. Hello.
Hello.
What's up, Tim?
Hi. I wanted to share my first Giants game. I went to Miami. Prime time. I wore my OBJ jersey, and he scored the 2 touchdowns.
Well, could you possibly wear a neighbor's jersey when you get to the stadium this year?
I'd love to attend more. Malik Neighbors is a stud. I've attended more Giants games in the future. I live here in the NorCal, and so I went to the San Francisco game, and I had my Sterling Shepard long sleeve custom NFL license, and I believe he showed out that game as well too. And I hope for continued success for Malik.
Well, Tim, the Giants are going to be out west, not quite California, but they'll be out in Denver and out in Las Vegas this year. So I don't know if that trip is too far for you, but you may want to take a shot at maybe going to one of those games.
Really looking forward to seeing Ashton Genty.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I hope when the Giants face Ashton Genty, he has his worst game of the season. That would be nice.
I hope Dexter Lawrence is looking forward to facing him, too.
It would certainly help our chances in that game, for sure.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the call. 201-939-4513. Len in Maryland, you're up next on the program. Hello.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What do you say, Len?
Hanging in there, and Matt Paul will probably remember this. 1985, Paul, when we had to play the Bears in the playoffs, somebody said to George Young, "Gee, it's such a shame you have to play the Bears so early in the playoffs." And Young said, "Well, we're going to have to play them sometime."
That's true. That is true.
So the way this thing plays out, it is what it is. We knew the teams. The schedule is just as tough today as it was in January.
Yep.
It didn't get any tougher. It's going to be a bit of a grind, but we got to hang in there with it. One thing that disturbed me, but this is how things work out. Other teams have this happen to them too. I thought the bye's a little late. I was a little disappointed in that.
The latest you could have a bye week.
Week 14.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine that.
We agree on that one, huh?
Big time. That I don't love, but
I like week 10 for my bye week if I had my druthers.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a guess at this. This is the first time this century that the Giants will open on the road 2 weeks in a row. Unheard of.
Actually, hold on a second. I actually have that. I'm not sure if that's true, Len. Hold on a second. I did a full checklist on let's see, Giants. I did a comparison with the NFC East. I'll give you that. Your fact may be accurate, Len. I don't want to dispute that, but I'll give you a couple other facts. Okay.
Yeah, the point is, it's been a long time. I mean, who opens 2 games in a row on the road? I mean, it's very rare.
This is the
and then
first
you put
time.
2 division games together.
Len,
one of those division games should have been a home game. Hey, we can play 2 division rivals. Okay, that's the way it falls. But I mean, one of them should have been a home game. I agree with you, Paul.
I will say the Giants are the only team in the NFL this season that open their season with 2 road divisional games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the first time that the Giants have had this scenario. 2 road games against the NFC East in the first 2 weeks of the season since 1984. Now, that's a long, long time. It also marks the first
time. I was accurate. First time this century.
Okay, well, there you go. It also marks the Giants' first NFC East battles in weeks 1 and 2 since 2009. Only the third time that's happened since 2000. And it will be their first NFC East road opener since 2019.
Oh my goodness!
Now, if you want another factoid,
all kinds of records here.
I'll give you another one that's going to blow your mind.
It just seemed a little weird when I saw that, but again, you got to play them when you got to play them. I mean, you're playing them both those teams twice, so it came up early with Sue. Look, this is going to be a grind. If you want the schedule to look easier, wait for 26. We get the AFC South and the NFC South. And it's going to look a lot better. It's going to look a lot easier in January. It's going to look a lot easier when the schedule comes out. It's going to look easier when we get to the first week of the season. But that's not where we are. And it's 25. Look, it's going to be a grind, and not just because of the way to make the season easier is play better.
Now that is the truest statement that's been made all day.
They're saying, "Oh my goodness, we got to go to Brazil, and then 10 days later we got to go play the Giants on a Sunday night." I mean, if you got better players, if your team is playing well, the schedule evens out. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why this is going to be a grind. We're just going to have to play better. I mean, we got to play better. I mean, I'm not satisfied with just playing better and losing by 3. I mean, we got to play better and win games. This is going to be tough. But listen.
Yeah.
Listen. it's part of the process. Matt, I've said this before. I know I'm going to shake you with this because I did the first time, but I'm going to say it again. We're a couple of years away, Matt. We're a couple of years away. We got to start building. Wonderful draft, great off season altogether. Let's enjoy the development of this team. Count up the first round draft choices we've got on this team. We got a lot of them. Now, some of them may not be our own, but we got a bunch of first round picks on this team. Let's watch this team grow. The coaching staff has got to bring them along. We got some veteran leadership. I like that. But there's going to be some bad stretches. There's going to be some awful stretches. But we're going to get there. Let's just get ready for that. The thing we want for me, we got to be ready on week 1.
I hope so.
We're not rolling into this easy. We know the week 1s in the past. I know Tennessee in 22 was magnificent, but after that, these first weeks got really tough. Come on, Brian, you got to get this team ready to play on week 1. Even out of the coaches last year. O'Connell last year in the post game. He said, yeah, we were the better team, but we were better prepared. You can't hear that from another coach. This team's got to be prepared to play. We'll take the losses. We'll look for the growth. We're heading in the right direction. I'm not even talking about what I'm going to be happy with in terms of number of wins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying away from that. Let me tell you my measurement. I'm going to tell you, Eric. Don't laugh, guys. Don't laugh. But here's my measurement.
Yeah.
If we're drafting in double figures next year, if we're drafting 10 to 12 next year, we've had a nice season. And we come back to next year and make a move forward from there.
Okay, Len, I have one request for you now.
Yes.
Okay? As this season progresses, if the record does not significantly improve, and it turns out that whatever that record is, it still turns out to be 10th, I don't want to hear you start waffling on your feelings on this, because I got a feeling that your stomach is not going to be doing well this year if this team loses a bunch of games.
We won 3 games.
I know that.
We're going in the wrong. We're 9-6-3. Get me. I hate to throw the number out there, but get me back to 6. Get me back to 6.
We would all agree, because that's double what you won last year. No one's going to say that 6 isn't significantly better. My point is, I know you well enough. You're going to agonize. If this team has a 4-game losing streak, you're going to agonize.
Wonderful call. We had a guy call up yesterday and said he thought we were going to get 10 wins. I'd like to draft 10th.
Okay. Len, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Okay.
201-939-4513. He's such a good fan. He's going to be in pain. If this team is like 3-6, they could still win 6 games by the end of the year, but he's going to be in agony. I know he's going to be, and he's going to call up, and he's going to be, oh, woe is me. And he's just going to be an absolute mess. He's going to sound like Richard Lewis, the comedian. He's going to be in significant pain. And he's not going to be able to remember he called us up and said, well, if we win 6 games, it's going to be okay. No, it's not going to go that way.
I'm just confused why he started that point directing it towards me as if I'm the one standing up here like preaching that the Giants are winning, 12 games this year. I've been very consistent with what I feel like everyone's expectations should be this upcoming season, where we just all want to see the team make a step in the right direction. I don't think anyone's expecting us to, all of a sudden be a Super Bowl contender after winning 3 games last year, but you just see improvements on both sides of the ball, some development from some of your younger players. And I feel like, regardless of how many games we win, if we see that, most people will be, pretty satisfied with the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just confused why making it sound like I'm up here saying the Giants are going like 12-5 this year. I'm just a little confused. I've said if the Giants win 6 or 7 games, but do everything that I just said, show development from a lot of those young players, be even in those losses, even if they lose 10 games, if you keep those losses for the most part close, that shows that you took a big step from last year, and that should be something that all fans should be happy with. Obviously, we would all love the team to win 10 games this year and make the playoffs and go on a huge run. But again, given where the team was last year with 3 wins, I feel like everyone's got to keep things. You could be optimistic. I'm never going to sit up here and say you should not be optimistic.
Sure.
But also, just have your expectations at a, somewhat reasonable level.
That's fair. Anthony from Mississippi, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey,
hi.
Anthony.
What's up? I just wanted to say go Giants, and I hope we have a good season this year. And that schedule release video is pretty good.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Appreciate the call, Anthony. Try again next time. Sneaky G in Dallas? Okay. Hi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I tell you what, on your spare time, I'm serious. You can Google me, Sneaky G Man, big Giants fan.
Okay. Well,
hey,
I think
man,
you have to be sneaky if you're a Giants fan in Dallas. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting beaten up.
Oh, and I tell you what, everywhere I go, I got on my Giants gear. Everywhere I go.
Love that.
All right. Stand up for your guys.
Keep it up.
So, Matt, you were saying earlier how, if we lose close games, we're showing some kind of improvement, blah, blah, blah. Let's not forget last year, there were 8 games where 7 points or less, it could have went our way.
No,
and we obviously would have had a completely different record. And I just hope this year, I know that the schedule is tough. It is what it is. But if we could just have that mantra of just finish it, just finish games. Yes, we want to be competitive, towards, the end of the third and fourth quarter, but then also not only competitive in these tough games, but finish them. And obviously our defense on paper looks phenomenal. Our offense is getting there. I think Shane did an outstanding job, with the draft and free agency. I mean, we got depth with, the offensive linemen, and even got some kind of depth with the corners, DBs, which I think is going to help us out this year. But more importantly, Coach, I believe in Dable. I would love for him to finish this year and even get an extension. I'm really pushing positive juju for Dable, even with this brutal schedule we got this year. But I think if we could just preach finish, that's it. Just manifest finishing games on the right end. I think we'll surprise some people this year.
Sneaky G, I'm not one who believes in the momentum word because, like they say in baseball, momentum's only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. They say in football, it's only as good as your next kickoff. What I do believe is belief in what you're doing and confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah.
The combination of belief and confidence can get a team on a streak.
Yes.
That's not the same as momentum. It's different. It is different because momentum you don't necessarily control. When you believe in something, you have control over whether or not you believe in something. You can control to some degree whether or not you have confidence in something. Momentum is not about any control. Momentum is just something that takes over and takes you in a certain direction. So I'm not a fan of the momentum word. But I believe that if the Giants should get some big wins early, and this is where you and I will definitely agree, the Giants can get some big wins early. Imagine them upsetting Kansas City at home and Mahomes. Imagine them
in Dallas.
Absolutely. You get a couple of those games. The belief and the confidence that these rookies and second-year players who make up a very important part of this team, they will work off of that, and it will definitely help them as they proceed down through the schedule. That's not momentum. That's gaining belief and confidence with results.
Oh, 100%. And Sneaky G, I'm glad that you brought up, the one score losses from last year, because you're right. The Giants did lose, I believe it's 8 games by 8 points or less last year. But there's a difference between actually being competitive for all 4 quarters and then just having the game end in a 1-score game. Because some of those games, the Giants were down double digits and they scored a touchdown with like a minute left, made the score seem a little bit closer than what the box score might show.
That's what we call it, empty.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about by being competitive. one game where the Giants did not end up finishing in a one-score game, but I do believe were very competitive, was that Bengals primetime game. They ended up losing by 10 points, but that was a 3-point game until about 2 minutes left in the game, and then the Bengals scored a touchdown, made it a little bit bigger of a lead. But the Giants were in that game. Now, the offense was not playing well, don't get me wrong, but they were competitive in that game against a pretty good Bengals team for the entire 58 minutes of the 60 minutes. That is what I'm talking about by being competitive. You can lose, 10 games this upcoming year, but if you are competitive for all 60 minutes in those 10 losses, I can live with that. I feel like most people would be able to live with that.
This is one of the reasons we talk about how one of the easier ways to become, back into the competitive category is dominating on special teams. Because you're talking about a 3-point game. Well, guess what? Special teams, field position, tilting the field for your offense or your defense, and then having a really good field goal kicker. Well, guess what? That can easily mean a point differential of 3 points on any given Sunday.
100%.
Yeah, on that note, can we tell Gano, or can someone just send him an email not to try and chase anybody down next year? Can we I just want to throw that. I mean, since you said
I got you.
You said it, Paul, and I'm just finishing it. That's all I'm just saying.
Snicky G, I appreciate the call, man. Can you call again,
I do
please?
want to say one last thing.
Go ahead.
A great NFL giant said, if you believe it, it will happen. So let's start believing it.
Thanks, Sneaky G. Appreciate it.
Amen.
Jake in Connecticut, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
We're good.
Good. How are you?
I wanted to talk about the Giants' schedule. I'm an optimistic fan. I just wanted to say that hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, just like what Demir said, like you stated earlier in the show.
Well, I appreciate the phone call.
Yeah,
that's
I'm hoping they can start off at least 2-2 this year. At least get a couple wins early under their belt. That's what I'm hoping for.
For sure. Thank you, Jake.
You and us both.
Hey, let me tell you something. Even though we all knew what the schedule was at the end of last season, and we were all shaking our heads and saying, oh boy, this could be really rough, okay? It doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that anybody's going to, slump their shoulders, sink their heads, and walk around saying, oh, it's a rough schedule. All right, just might as well, throw in the towel on the season and look forward to 26. Nobody's doing that. Absolutely not. You see what it is, and to your point, you absolutely want to take on the challenge and do whatever it is that you can to prove people wrong, that you are, in fact, a competitive football team. There's no doubt about that. You have to use that as the carrot to make yourself better. I would agree with that part of it for sure.
Yeah, and this is something that Dan Salamone brought up in the release that was put out last night with the full schedule. According to NFL research, 4 of the last 5 teams that had the easiest strength of schedule going into the season ended up missing the playoffs that season. Missing with the easiest schedule going into the year. Yeah. And on the other side, 2 of the last 4 teams that had the quote-unquote hardest strength of schedule ended up making the playoffs. So, as we both talked about, things change on a year-to-year basis in the NFL. We all know that. So just because right now the Giants' schedule on paper looks very tough, we're not going to sit here and tell you otherwise, that doesn't actually mean that all those teams that made that strength of schedule number so high, that doesn't mean they're all going to be good again this year. They can easily take a step back. We see it every single season.
I believe the folks at the NFL also had put out a number that said at least 4 teams have made the playoffs in each of the past 5 seasons after not qualifying for the postseason the year before. And to boot, at least one club has gone from worst or tied for last in their division to first place in their division in 20 of the past 23 NFL seasons. Talk about crazy numbers.
And to that last one, to go even further, there's been at least one team that has won the division after missing the playoffs the year before in 53 of the last 55 seasons.
I mean, this league is nuts, folks. It really is. And there are going to be a collection of teams who are going to disappoint every year and a collection of teams that are going to surprise every year. That's just the way it goes. And then there's going to be that other collection of teams that they're staples. The Pittsburgh Steelers are making the playoffs every year.
Well, Mike Tomlin's there, yeah.
That's it. Tomlin is as good as the IRS. He's going to be there every year. That's it. We go to Vincent in Brooklyn. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
What's going on? You guys are doing great.
Thank
Vincent.
you.
First-time caller, but just wanted to mention that I've been seeing a lot in the last probably 10 days or so that everybody is putting a number on wins the Giants needs for the staff to not get canned.
Yeah,
I don't even think they need wins. They just can't need to lose the locker room and just sprinkle in some wins throughout the season. I just wanted your take on that.
I think we would both agree more than sprinkle would be better. Sprinkling in wins, they're going to have to do more than that. I think John Mara, when he said he has to feel better, at the end of next season as opposed to this past season, I think to make him feel better, he's going to have to see not only improved play on the field and more competitive scores, but I also think he's going to need to see more than just 1 or 2 more wins. I do think so.
Yeah, I mean, certainly more than 3 wins. I think that's kind of, fair to say. If no one's going to be happy if the Giants go 3-14 again, even if they are competitive in all 14 of the losses, you got to finish and actually win some of the games.
Odds are that won't be good.
But one thing you brought up, which I'm glad you did, because as poorly as the last 2 seasons went for the Giants, and we're not going to sit up here and tell you they did not go poorly, obviously. One thing that did not happen is Brian Daboll did not lose the locker room at all. We spoke about this at the end of last year, where clearly the Giants season had, for all intents and purposes, been done for like 2 months. But the locker room, we were in every single day in the month of December. Those guys were 100% still all in on the team, still going out there trying to win every single game. I mean, we saw it in the Colts game where they put together the best overall performance of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Daboll there was no rumbling, like by no means did he lose the locker room, even in the slightest bit. He still had the locker room fully behind him, fully supporting him. I'm just glad that you brought that one point up, Vincent.
And trust me, Vincent, in the 40-plus years I've been doing this, I've seen head coaches who did lose the locker room.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be my 7th season, so I've been here 6 years. I've seen it in that short period.
I know you have. And that, to me, is always the backbreaker. When that happens, that's the backbreaker.
That's it.
It's really, really difficult to keep a guy once that's happened. It's almost it's the point of no return.
You can't keep a coach. You see it every year. When a coach loses the locker room, that is it.
It's just, that's about as bad a stench as you can have.
Yep, I can see them maybe pulling out 6 wins, and as long as they're competitive, they can hold it together for another season.
Thanks for the call, Vincent. Appreciate it.
Vincent. I think a big thing for this season, again, who knows what the number of win total is going to be, but if the season is not going, I mean, we've both spoken how in an ideal world, Jackson Dart does not see the field this upcoming year because Russell Wilson's playing so well, the team's winning games, that there's just not an opportunity to put him in. Chances are, I don't want to say chances are, but there is a chance that does not happen, obviously.
Sure.
Given everything we've talked about with the schedule, the opponents, everything. If the Giants, again, I don't want to put a number, but miss the playoffs, lose 10 or so games, but Jackson Dart gets in at some point, and for whatever stretch of games that he's playing, he looks like he's got it, and he is the guy, that is a very big step, very big, check off of the to-do list for this season, where it's okay if you don't win as many games as everyone would hope, but if he shows he is your quarterback of the future, then I don't see how there would be significant changes made in next offseason.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe this, and we got to run in just a second, folks. The best way to describe this is there's going to be a board that's got a slew of boxes on it. And one of them is going to be one-loss record. Another one's going to be locker room and the mentality of the locker room. Another one's going to be player development.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Another one's going to be decision-making. And Each category on this board is going to need a certain number of boxes checked to make the front office feel good about the direction the team is heading in. And you can't just have all the boxes in one column checked and then leave all the other ones empty.
No.
You're going to have checks across the board in all of the categories. And so that's why the hypothetical of what is good enough to move forward with the train that you have, or what makes you want to pull into the station and take a different line to another direction. Well, it's just not that easy to say because there are too many variables that are involved in this. And that's kind of why, I personally can't stand when people say, well, how many wins is it going to take? Because that just doesn't make sense.
No, it makes no sense. But I think we could both agree that assuming he does get on the field for some stretch of games, how Jackson Dart looks would be a pretty, high up box to check off on that list.
Oh, it would help an awful lot if he does well. Again, if he does get in, and that's a huge if.
Yeah,
it's a huge if.
We have no idea how the quarterback situation is going to play out. Right now, there are 4 capable quarterbacks in the room, 3 of which actually have NFL experience under their belts already.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right, spirited show. we were able to get through the fireworks and got you another hour here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday. Yeah. Friday's tomorrow.
Me and you back on it again.
The days are just between the Knicks games and tip of the cap to Pearson, okay? Your Celtics are still alive.
Pearson walked in with a pep in his step today.
Small victories make people very happy. I understand that. It's okay.
How about Luke Cornett, man?
Hey,
love that guy.
I gotta say, Luke Cornett. You know what college he went to?
Vandy.
Vandy.
He's a really smart guy.
As much as I've been rooting for the Knicks, I can't be mad about one of my Vandy boys playing well. I'm sorry. Still go Knicks, but I'm happy to see Luke Cornett perform well.
So we're back with another edition of the program tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live here to take your calls for an hour. Also, programming note, tonight in New York, if you're anywhere in the half of the country that gets the signal of WFAN on 660 AM or 101.9 FM, John Schmelk and I will be doing a 2-hour Giant special tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be on from 10 to 12 midnight. I'm just so glad the Knicks aren't playing tonight. We'll be on from 10 to 12 midnight, 2 hours. We're going to go over our complete rookie mini camp review, as well as rehashing some of the analysis. And I got a whole slew of them we didn't get to about the New York Giants schedule in 2025. And hopefully you guys will be able to join us. Give us a call over at WFAN tonight.
And if you miss it live, I assume we will be posting it on all of our podcast platforms tomorrow, right, Pearson?
Yep, the audio will be definitely going up on podcast platforms.
So, if you're a little tired and you got to fall asleep, you're excused. You can always catch
10 to 12 is pretty
late.
late.
Friday. For some people... I don't know. Look, I don't sleep, so it doesn't matter to me. We could do the show from 2 to 4 in the morning.
You got to get your sleep in the off season so you're refreshed for training camp.
Not with the Knicks in this series right now. There's no way I'm sleeping. It's not happening. Folks, that'll do it for Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. From Matt Sitek, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time.